Hi, my name is David Bailey. I'm the CEO of Fashion District Northwest. Today we're going to be doing a panel discussion on building a fashion foundation for your business. We have three different speakers that are going to be part of our panel today, and I'll do a quick introduction of each of them. If you'd say a few words about who you are, what your business is, and kind of how long you've been in the fashion industry and kind of what your area of expertise is. We'll go ahead and start with Ginger.
My name is Ginger Dominguez. I've been in the business for going on maybe 17 years now, and my background is in evening wear, couture. I worked in New York for years, and after working those 80-hour weeks all the time, I decided I wanted to start my own company. So if I was going to put in those hours, it was going to be for me. And now what I do is I have a consulting business called Design Manager NYC, and what we do is work with emerging labels or established labels to basically help them create their line, whether they need design, product development, production. We leverage our contacts within the industry to make whatever they're wanting to do a reality in that space.
My name is Madison Laren from Laren Designs. I've been in the industry for about 15 years, everything from showrooms in LA to custom design, which is what I do. I'm a founder and designer. So yeah, we do evening wear, formal gowns, wedding dresses mostly. Some of our pieces are hundreds of hours of beading, dyeing lace, flowers to put onto gowns, those sorts of things. So really nature inspired, very, very detail oriented, and lots of those 80-hour weeks, but it's best to do it for yourself or someone else. So yeah.
Hello, my name is Yulia Suleimanova, and I'm the co-founder of Soleil Era, which is an online publication. One of the focuses of Soleil Era is fashion, and my expertise is in brand strategy, public relations, media, and yeah, that's it.
So as all of you have been in the fashion industry for a while, we'd love to start with kind of what are some of the key components that you felt like were foundational pieces for you in your business, and how have you applied it to what you're doing? I'm assuming some of these you may have started off doing, some of these you may have learned along the way, but what would you kind of say, what are some of your key components, and I'll let you guys go back and forth with it.
I mean, I'd say for me, I started out as a designer in this business. Now I'm running a company where I'm overseeing all these different facets, but at my core, I'm a designer, and I think to be a true designer and to communicate your ideas effectively is disputed by some people, but for me, it is sketching. That is the most key thing as a designer that's going to get your ideas across quickly and effectively, is being able to express quickly what is in your head on paper or through draping, one of the two. You just need to be able to do that quickly. And two of the other things I would say would be definitely math is one of the most utilized skills. We use it all the time, whether we're patterning, whether we're thinking about costing, whether we're just thinking about how to put all these components together. It is the foundation of what we do as designers, is constantly using these numbers and formula in our mind, or in a company doing that for someone else, taking and how do we manifest them in a physical space. And that, of course, engineering and math and all those different thought processes that a lot of people don't give credit to us designers doing every day, And then the third would be just knowing how to collaborate. A good designer is never working on their own. They're always collaborating with either fabric vendors or, you know, an accountant or a lawyer, who knows, or just other people within the team, sewers, interns. So you really have to be agile and able to listen, communicate, and know that nobody is the star at the end of the day. There may be somebody at the front of that company, but they are not the company. The company is made up of all the people that put their time and effort in, and we have to respect that with what we do.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what you said is brilliant. I think also project management and being able to zoom in on the tiniest of details and zoom out and have that macro approach as well. Being able to see multiple projects at the same time in different stages and knowing what needs what when. And then also team management, going into kind of what you were saying. I've got people who, I'm not the best logo designer, so I'm going to get somebody who is. I'm definitely not a lawyer, although a lot of fashion is doing contract work with clients. So knowing your strengths, delegating to people that you trust for things that you can't do yourself because you can't do everything all at once always. And then also just learning how to work with other people, the psychology of it. I look a lot at like Phil Knight, Lakers coach, looking at the sports psychology of how do you motivate people? How do you get through fashion week or a crazy deadline? You know, I remember Marc Jacobs, one of my favorite quotes by him was, eat some sugar, you'll feel better. And just going around and being like, do you need coffee? Do you need, are you taking care of yourself? Because we put so much into it, and we have to make sure that we're taking the village, taking care of the village with it. So.
Yes, I would definitely agree with the ladies. And I think one of the fundamental things with branding, with your brand, with your business, is how will you integrate branding into all aspects of your business operations so you can reach the most outcome of your business for yourself and for your clients. Now, why would it matter? It would matter, it matters because branding is how customers experience your brand. And customer satisfaction and loyalty depends on how you build your brand experiences. Now, there are 3 ways how you build your brand experiences. Number 1 is product experience. It is how customers interact with your brand. For instance, through your website, through Google search, when customers discover your brand, they can compare your brand products and services with alternative products, alternative brands, therefore your competition. So when brands compare, examine, and evaluate your brand, they build a certain perception. So product experience matters. Second one is shopping and service experiences. It is when consumers interact with your brand, say in a physical space, but also online as well, when they learn about your policies. For instance, return policies. So they build certain perceptions about the brand. And the third one is consumption experiences. It occurs when consumers consume your products and services, and consumption experiences have multi-dimensional perception because it involves emotions and feelings. So how your products and services make your consumers feel, they will either return to you or not. Let's say conspicuous consumption, that would be a part of consumption experiences, which is how it makes your customers feel when they wear your jacket or have your bag, what other people think of them having a jacket or bag. So.
So because we're dealing with a lot of designers that are at the beginning level, intermediate level, what was something that you started off with that you really felt you struggled as a designer and wish you had somebody to say like, hey, if you just do this, or you just weather this aspect, or don't hire, don't worry about this aspect, whatever it might be, but what was that one piece of your younger self when you got started?
I would say in both aspects of my career now, running a business where we are pricing out, building whole collections for clients, and then also as a designer previously, the biggest issue is not pricing accurately. If you are not charging what you need to be charging, and it's usually more than you think it needs to be, then you are going to lose money every time, because there's so many factors that go into building these garments, building a collection, aside from just the fabric and just the, just the labor. It's also your time for development. It's all that time you spend with the clients, massaging what they want, whether you're making custom for them or whether you are, working with a client and building a brand for them. There is a lot of back and forth. And I would say in that same vein, it would be what I see a lot with designers, and I've even seen it at the more high-end level with some larger couture or demi-couture companies in New York, is making things just for the runway and not thinking about how you're actually going to produce that. Let's say you make something so beautiful, handmade, artisanal, everything is like hand-cut lace and hand-dyed. How are you going to replicate that in production? Do you have a plan in place? Because yes, we can put something so amazing down the runway, but when I cost that out, the retail price is going to be close to $18,000, when really we probably need to hit that retail at under $8,000 for anybody that is super wealthy, not super uber wealthy, but anybody in that vein even to be thinking about it, unless they're like, oil money or, to that extent. You have to be thinking about how do we take something that I cut and handmade myself and draped and stitched on a mannequin, how is that going to be a paper pattern after? How are we translating that into something where somebody else can pick up and make it? And at the end of the day, as designers in this world we live in, I think one of the best advice I ever got from a design director I used to work with is work in a way where if you never came back tomorrow, somebody else could step in and do this job and understand what you're doing. So that is a big challenge, to be transparent and to think about who's touching that next. Think about how you're pricing it and who is going to touch it next, who is going to make it, who is going to wear it, how's the person going to move in something that is made with 1,000 pieces that you hand stitched on a mannequin. The reality of it actually being worn outside of a red carpet or a runway.
I wanted to kind of add to what you were saying when you, from the point of branding, marketing, advertising, when you have a couple of pieces, maybe 1, 2 outfits, maybe one, but just for the sake of outfit, not to sell, but to have it, it's going to be outrageous, but still aligned with your brand vision, who you are as a brand, what you represent, but yet it will be just for the purposes of shocking,
Yeah.
or, just for the show.
Just for the runway.
Just for the runway,
Yes.
for pictures that will be published, for journalists that would write about you, that you can actually can do something that beyond what you see on the runway or in your collection, something that is has this allure of magic, so to speak, and a number of brands, do that with just for, a shock, not a shocking, it can be a shocking too, but something that you cannot actually buy, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of element in the runway, that would be, but you have to be definitely careful with that, not to go, so it is still aligned with your identity as a brand, but yet to show what you can do.
And I think too, touching on
Yeah.
that, okay, how do we fit that piece into our PR budget? And what is our PR budget?
Yes, definitely.
And taking it from a hobby
Definitely.
into a business and having the systems in place. So, if you take something that's a custom piece that needs alterations and all of a sudden you get COVID or you be out of town or something, what is the system and the communication style so that somebody can just walk up to the garment bag, look at it and be like, I know exactly what needs to be done, for whom and when by.
Yes.
So those sorts of things, and also just building the business. The more business classes you take, the more understanding you have of things like, how do I get a broker to deal with importing samples from a foreign country? There's going to be taxes on that. There's going to be, duties. Like, what are all of these things that they don't teach you in design school? It's how to sketch, it's how to sew, it's how to pattern make. So if you want to go and work for someone else, they have accounting departments. You don't have to worry about that until, you're going over your annuals and, your season sales and things like that. But if you want to be your own boss, you have to be the accountant. You have to be HR. You have to be the person who's signing off on literally everything. So the more you know, the better. It's not just about, can you make a pretty dress?
And as a small business, you cannot make just decision on the fly. Say, I decided to have that piece, elaborate piece, in my collection, runway collection. You can't just say that. You need to plan it. Definitely it needs to be
The why.
It needs to be in the budget. I mean, it costs money to make, and it cannot be just a decision of a one-day decision. It needs to be strategic plan, for sure. Yes.
So yes, I'm popping back and forth because I'm also running the camera for this. I think, all the designers that I've ever come to either have one or two things, and it's kind of piggybacking on what you guys have already established. Pricing and knowing how to price and kind of setting a good foundation price-wise. Most designers starting out, I feel like, either do one of two things. Either they price it super low or they price it super high. So could you go through, not necessarily, like each item's different, and I get that, but can you kind of go on what are the factors that they need to be thinking about when they are pricing their items so that they know, yeah, this is a reasonable rate, this is kind of, what are some of the quick ways of kind of finding out how to price it? And we may go into another workshop altogether on pricing it specifically, but I'll get you started here.
Yeah. I have a formula that I use very consistently. A lot of companies use a very similar formula. The percentage can change a little bit, but if you stick to it, you're going to get a good wholesale cost. And if you're sure you're never only, wholesale, this price will work for you. If you're selling directly to the customer, whatever I'm gonna tell you now, you need to double that because that's gonna be your retail for a store. So how I get to that number is cost of goods, and that's cost of everything. That's cost of your pattern paper, that's cost of your materials, every single thing that you use in that process, the cost of the pins that you had to buy to like pin on the mannequin, plus the labor, and that's your labor, as well as the labor of the sewers and the labor of the pattern makers, drapers, all of that, plus an operating cost. Gas and electric, the full cost of your garment, but you need to think strategically. If you made 50 items for your collection, whatever you paid for 6 months while you developed that for all of your operating costs needs to be divided among those 50 items as an operating cost. So usually it's going to be like 5% of this total figure. Whatever that figure winds up being, let's say that figure winds up being $120, you're going to multiply that by 2.5 to 2.7%. That's your wholesale cost. You put profit in there, and if you're going to go direct on your website and sell, you better double that, because if Nordstrom's comes knocking and they want to sell your item, you don't want to be caught in a place where you're selling wholesale on your website. Let's say you're selling these beautiful dresses or pants or whatever for $300 on your website because that was your markup cost. But now Nordstrom sees that they're retailing for $300, they have to sell them to Nordstrom for less than that cost, and you're not going to make any profit. So always think about the possibility that you're not going to just sell on your website, that people are going to want to put it in their store, because that is likely.
A lot of it is the COGS, or the cost of goods. How many beads, what percentage of those beads are going to be flawed from the manufacturer? I can't do it. That salary then has to go into those costs as well. And also, who is working on it and how efficient are they, and what is their pay rate based on that? Your maker is getting a different pay rate than your seamstress, who's probably getting a different pay rate than your cutter, and so on and so forth. And then, just there's kind of like the cost of the materials, and then there's what I call the house costs. Is what does the house need to bring in for me to get paid, for them, my employees to get paid, for the lights to go on, making sure that taxes are covered too, not just sales taxes, but business taxes. Again, going into like the formula that you talk about. Once your house has that, that is like your golden rule, that's your Bible, that is your one column, your keystone, that once you figure that out, you can stick to it and make small adjustments. Inflation every year. Prices go up. What does inflation look like? What does our recession look like? How is that affecting costs? How is that affecting things like import costs from different companies? Are certain fabrics going up because there are tariffs on that country that you've been sourcing that one from for forever? So now you need to source it from elsewhere, and does that take more time to source it? It's a living document. There's an idea that we have that like, oh, I finished this thing and it's done and it's just that forever. And you have to get that out. Your website's going to be a living document. Your contracts are going to be living documents. All of it is going to evolve with you.
Branding, my thought is when you're pricing your garments, what is your target market? Can they afford, who are the customers, right? Then the question is what you're willing to put in creating this dress, okay? But then what would be the final price, and then who is going, that customer that you are thinking gonna buy that dress, can they afford to buy the dress? Or then strategically, how will you then design the dress so that beading, right? So there will be beading there, but not strategically you'll place the beading. So you'll see, so it will cost less, but still the beading still has that look that you're going forward for your brand. Input or thought, how would you just sort of thinking through, yes, price matters, but then can your customer afford to buy? Yes or no, and then go from that too, so it matters. You can create a $2,000 skirt, but then can't, who are going to buy that skirt, $2,000 skirt, right? So.
I think that's a great kind of segue into one of my, then I'll kind of do a two-part question to it. Now that you've kind of established how you're doing your pricing, how do you line your pricing up with your clients? And how do you line that up with the products that you're making? We'd all love to have, you know, high-end fabrics and this and that, but then everybody wants it at the cheap price. How do you, and some of it's your product development. How have you gone about your process to figure out who your client is, how much of the price points of your client is, and what products are they going to buy from you so that you know what to create?
Well, what I really give as advice to my clients, because I would say the majority of my clients are people who just have a very abstract idea that they want to start a fashion line. And it is our place to do that whole process with them. And one thing I say over and over again is a successful brand will always have tiers to what they're making. You have the cream on top that you're not going to make any money off that stuff, but it is what gives the magic to your brand. So that might be the really over-the-top runway pieces that, yes, somebody may want to buy them, but you're not really going to make a profit on that stuff. You need to have tiers to where maybe you're also selling a more entry-level piece that more people can access. So I really caution against having everything in this same vein of a price point, because your customer's going to get bored and it will exclude people in that range that you may want to include, you know.
I'm not going to try to go too into it, but this is a lot of what I do because I do so much custom work. So our base tier of what I just need to pay people, fabric sourcing, all those sorts of things, our dresses start at $3,000 for a custom wedding gown. That's for something minimal, you know, a little boat neckline, maybe some cute little illusion cutouts, train, chic, minimalist. Then, if people are wanting rhinestoning, if people are wanting beading, if people are wanting a beautiful brocade fabric, we do have a lot of the things in the showroom as far as what we can show people and source and be like, this is an option. You can see the difference in the pricing of the fabric and the quality of it and the weave of it and the dimensionality of it, things. But also, it's keeping track of all of the little things. How many hours did it take me to rhinestone a sleeve, a bodice, just the neckline on the bodice, the entire bodice, a hem, a pleated hem? So the more that you write these things down, the more records that you keep, the more accurately moving forward you can price those things. If we're doing an A-line skirt versus a pleated skirt, how many pleats do they want? How long does it take to do the pleating? How long does the pattern changes of that? Or, you know, those. The more records that you keep, the more of a paper trail, the better you'll be in your pricing strategy.
And I would add, what are your clients, customers' expectations? What do they expect your dress to look like, feel like, all of that, right? So they will come back to you again because these are the things that they are coming for. What are their expectations? Do you fulfill their expectations as a fashion brand, as a fashion designer? I think that's important to keep in mind. Something else, I was just listening to something else and I'm forgetting now. there's always something in a fashion brand. There's something that you're really good at. They call it an it thing that you come back again and again. And there's many propositions or variables to it. Emotional variable, social variable, because everybody has it and I have to have it. Chanel makes money on the leather goods, leather bags. So to know what you're really good at, is it your tops that you're good at, embellished with rhinestones, or it's a jacket, or it's a t-shirt with some kind of logo or whatever. So what you're good at, and yeah.
I'm going to take this and add a little bit of a 2 cents and give it kind of a quick little story. Costco is notorious for their cheap hot dogs. Everybody knows you can get a drink and a hot dog for $1.50, and they've kept it that way forever. The rotisserie chicken is another one. Honestly, the Costco said, we lose money on those items, but people will come for those items and end up getting a whole bunch of other stuff. What are your products that you're going to have a low profit margin on, and then some of the projects you're going to have, your products are going to have a huge profit margin on. So understanding what's going to hook them versus what's going to sustain you as a designer. The next question I have for the three of you is, as you've gone through, yes, when the younger self had struggles, we get that. We were all learning and new. I think we forget that even though we've been doing this for years, that we still have struggles, but they're different. So what is the current struggles that you've been kind of coming out of COVID with, the last year or two type of things, trying to transition your business and make adjustments to kind of overcome something?
I think the consistent one since I've started my business is fashion is very up and down. It's economically, it's very up and down if you have your own design company, or if you're working with people that have their own design companies. There are going to be months where it is very lean, and there are going to be months where it is very flat. So resiliency of mind, and really it's kind of like this, I'm going to say borderline sociopathic belief that you're going to make it through even when it's really rough, you know, like, because it will get better, but you really have to have this like blind faith in yourself that you are going to make it through, because it will be up and down a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think the tenacity,
Yes.
you have to have, and the fortitude. If you don't have those two things,
Yeah.
if you don't have those things, it's not going to work.
No.
But for me right now, I've been focusing a lot on systems. And instead of taking one piece of time, focusing on this, focusing on that, it's what are the commonalities? What is the underlying thing that all of these things need? And how do we communicate that? How do we make the systems continue and work? And how do we review it? How do we go back? Managing people too. It's my third year. So learning the ebb and flow of that, how to make sure that somebody has the skill set that you're looking for, how they blend well with the rest of the team, how they work under pressure, how they receive feedback, what kind of a learner they are. So can I just say to somebody, hey, I need you to do this, or do I'm focusing on, and that's why I'm reading a lot of like sports psychology, especially, you know, college football and stuff like that. When you're taking these blended groups of people with all different backgrounds, and you're putting them together and saying, okay, run it again, run it again, run it again, and they're all exhausted and they've all been hit, and you know, it's the same thing with fashion. You get up and you reset for the next play, because it's just one play after another. It's a never-ending game.
I would say the challenge now is, how do you balance all this new technology, say AI now? How do you integrate it into your business operations? how do you find the balance between digital communications with TikTok and YouTube and Twitters of the world and Instagrams and Facebook? How do you manage the abundance of this media that we have? How do you find that balance? I think that's a big challenge now for everybody, not only for the fashion designers, but for businesses in general. Content creation. Where would you start? What would you do? You know, so that's, I think that's the biggest challenge as I see it.
I'll kind of take this, and this is a question I didn't necessarily have on the list before, but competitors. I think go through kind of what is your process in evaluating what your product is, who's a similar product to you. Yes, I know Walmart, you get a dress at Walmart, and Walmart is super cheap, but that's not the quality of the product that you have. How do you kind of go through analyzing who your competitors are, what their price points are, and kind of go through that process and how it affects you as a designer?
Well, for what I do, there's not a ton of companies doing exactly what we're doing now. There are some. And the way I've handled that competition is really reaching out to those companies, befriending those companies, and really seeing how we can work together, which is really not, you know, what you would do necessarily as a straightforward designer. But because we are doing all these different facets of the process, I've been reaching out to other people that have these sort of agencies and seeing what they're good at and seeing how we can work together. For us, our strength really is the design side and the product development side. But for example, just this morning, I spoke with a person who has a very strong following on Instagram. They have over 200,000 followers. They're called like the Sourcing Guy, and they're doing a lot of like factory outreach, sourcing, all that stuff. So thinking about how we can leverage what we do and what they do and bring out the best with both of us, which is not necessarily what you were asking, but it is unique to what we do. So yeah, that's how we handle it.
I think as a designer, you're not just paying for the physical product. You're paying for who I know. What fabric mills do I work with?
Oh yeah.
Resources, experience of like, oh, that defies physics. It's a pretty idea, but it's just not in the realm of possibility from a sketch. Or me having the wherewithal to be like, I've got 3 different ideas from experience that I've had in the past in order to pick this apart and figure out the situation. So it's a bit of that as well, and it's also aesthetics. I mean, I make wedding dresses. There are a gazillion wedding dresses out there, but mine are unique, and that's why people come to me, is because my aesthetic, my brand really resonates with them. It's a story that I tell, it's a world that I build, and there's a reason why people buy a Louis Vuitton bag versus a Chanel bag. There's something about it that may or may not be tangible. It makes them feel a certain way. And it's also that I am somebody they can have face-to-face time with. It's not some designer who's overseas that I'm never going to meet. It's me taking their story and putting it into fabric in front.
It's a personalized experience. It's the knowledge, the resources that you have, that I have as a business, me as a personality, as a person. All of that combined creates this very unique proposition for my customers. And so you cannot be great for everybody. You cannot offer everything for everybody. So you will create your own unique proposition and find the right partnership. And people will come because they see and understand the value that you offer, and therefore you see the value you bring to your customer, and that's how it works.
And they'll seek you out.
And they will.
I think one quick story that, you know, I had a designer that built some handbags a number of years ago, and it was an amazing handbag, loved them. It was kind of a men's satchel, so to speak. And I'm like, okay, so how much are you selling this for? And he's telling me, oh, actually it's a little bit more than like the Tom Ford bag. He showed me an example of the Tom Ford bag, and I'm like, so wait, your bag is 10% more than Tom Ford's? Similar concept, similar materials, but he's got the name brand. So I think as a starting designer, you're going to want to evaluate, you know, when you're trying to figure out what that price point is for yourself, how much time and energy you're having to put into it, but also like, okay, am I too much? If you can go to the store and your pricing is 3 times more than what the store price is, then you've got to figure some things out. But so I do think there's an aspect of going through and finding out who your competitors are from a national brands or even local brands, whether you're doing custom or production ready, so that you have an idea of what the industry is doing, so that you can kind of figure out where you slot in with that as well. The next question I have, and as you can probably imagine, a lot of these types of workshops are going to be focused more on how can we help you as a designer from a business side of things, as opposed to here's how you should stitch this dress so that makes, we're not going to get into that stuff. What we're going to get into is kind of the nuts and bolts of getting you to be a business person, getting you to be able to make money doing this. I think some of the skills that are required to do this are somewhat not necessarily thought of as like, oh, I've learned how to sew, I've learned where to get my fabrics. What is the one skill that you've learned that is more crucial than you would have thought and wish you'd spent more time learning it early on?
I think I said it before, it's sketching, 100%. That's my Midas touch with my clients. That's one of the reasons clients come to me, because I'm able to talk to somebody who has some very abstract ideas. They may just say, hey, I have this X amount of money and I want to create a line of through almost like a therapy session of talking to them about who they are and what they want and really getting in their head. And I'm able to manifest that on paper and drape. And for me, that I think my sketching has just gotten stronger and stronger as the years have gone on, and it's just, it is my
to know what you don't know and how to find out what you don't know. Concept of, okay, you do coding, I have no idea, it's all Greek to me. Is this even tangibly like a possibility? This is how do you computer, you know? Ask the Google. No, but just like having those strengths. I'll ask folks that are working for me in the studio who have more of a seamless transition of the entire wedding guest list in the middle of a dance, her first dance. How do we do this in such a way? Because I can think about how to construct it and how I would do it, but again, just taking feedback, listening to other people, but also knowing when it's your decision to make and allowing yourself to be humble enough to ask for help.
Mm-hmm. And adding to that, I think my ability to delegate what I am not great at, for instance, but I know about it. I accept it and I say, okay, you can do it better. So your ability to, as a manager, as a leader, to delegate certain tasks, that's really important. And also taking an agile approach to anything that I do, make changes as I go. And then one challenge at a time, adjust, review, overview, analyze, and move forward. So agile approach.
Can I add something to that? Recently, I've been working with a business coach, and we're talking about like me adding some staff members, and of course my immediate is like, well, this is what I need, this is what I need. And immediately he said, what are your weaknesses? Because we need to hire for your weaknesses. I don't want you trying to improve all your weaknesses. You need to hire for those weaknesses so you can shine where you're really good. Because we can't be everything to everybody. And it's okay to say, I'm not great at that, and I'm probably never going to be great at that, you know?
And
Like,
that's okay too.
that's okay. Like, let yourself be great at the things you're really great at.
And also with that too, pivotability. And there are so many, I kind of liken it to the restaurant industry, and that you see so many people that are like, no, this is going to be a sports bar. No, this is going to be, I've always wanted a sports bar. This is going to be a sports bar. And what do people want? They want a brunch spot. And the business fails because they grind into the ground what they think it should be, instead of seeing where the money is, seeing what people want and what they show up for,
Adjust.
and pivoting and letting it succeed.
Okay, so this is my warning for people that are here and online. We're going to start taking some questions from you in just a moment, so start thinking about what your questions will be. They can be specific to your company, they can be just kind of broad spectrum questions, but I'm going to let them answer one more question before I have us start going to the groups that are watching. My question for you is, what is the last piece of information you want them to, whether it's to summarize what you've been saying, what is your key things that you're wanting them to remember from today's speech or lecture?
Key things, I mean, I would say definitely think about how you're pricing things, and don't sell yourself short for the work that you and your team are doing. And I mean, I would say secondly, don't forget why you're in this in the first place, and it's because you love it. Without doing this, because if you're not that kind of person, then it's really not, I don't think, the right place for somebody to be in fashion if they're just like, I could be doing something else. It really has to be, it has to be the thing that you love so much. You're willing to continuously learn and change and adapt, and you know, it's a long process.
Yeah, adding to that, creating that lifelong learning. I have 2 books that I just want to share that have been essential to me in my success and in my journey that I jokingly call my Bibles. One is How to Set Up and Run a Fashion Label by Toby Meadows, and the other is Fashion for Profit by Frances Harder. I've got like multiple types of glue holding these spines together because since college, these have been books that have taught me things that I've resourced, I've used as reference over the decades that I didn't get in classes, I didn't get from lectures, I didn't get from others. So both of these, I strongly suggest if you want to be a designer, get these because, yeah, this is I think my 2nd copy of this book and it's already starting to get a little rough around the edges, so.
I would say that your intention to learn and to research is very crucial, and network and find the people who can be your mentors, who can answer your questions, teach you certain things from their experiences. I think this is very crucial for your developmental situation, your growth as a person, but also as a professional, as a fashion designer. So those couple of things, very important.
Okay, I think I've got this mic working again. For those that attended in person, who would like to start? I will call on people. So.
I have a question. What is your opinion or approach on, for specifically like a sportswear brand that has kind of like this, you know, similar to like a Lululemon or a Nike, but if you're starting off, your opinion on a one product brand just to start and then expanding from there? How do you guys like? Is that a good idea, or do you think you should have like a set of things? What would you guys say?
So I opened my brick and mortar 3 years ago from seed money of making flag masks over the pandemic. So I was the first designer to do, we started with the Norwegian flag, and we sold 8,000 plus masks that we sent all across the world, Iceland, Greece, Australia. We had over 130 different flags by the end of cloth masks being viable. But it all started with the Norwegian one. And you know, we worked with the Norwegian American, which is a local newspaper, and that caught traction to folks in Norway picked up on it because it gave people that sense of community and belonging. So do one product, do it well, but why is your product different than Lululemon? What is it that you offer that people get excited about? And then, yeah, absolutely expand, because there's room to do that. People will buy your one product, they'll fall in love with it, and they'll want more. So yeah, that's a great low cost, easy entry to test. Absolutely.
I had, or have a client that really was my client that turned my whole business around. When I started my business, I was doing custom evening wear. That was my passion. That's what I thought I was going to be doing. And I got this golf client, and he just was making a few polo shirts on Amazon. This was 2017. In the course of 5-6 years, he became the #1 best-selling golf brand on Amazon. And that pivoted my whole business to being what I am now, which is this consultancy. All starting with that. And the reason I bring that up is because as he started getting more successful with those core polo shirts that he had a really wonderful polo shirt that, you know, has thousands of reviews, and that's what people kept coming to him for. He decided to branch out and do a bunch of different stuff. He decided to make pants and dress shirts and all these other things. But at the end of the day, the part of the business that is still going strong is those polo shirts in all the different versions of that same polo shirt in a different fabrication, different sleeve, different collar, like you said, different flags. So yes, definitely master one thing. It depends also on how you are presenting your collection. If you're gonna, let's say, go to a trade show like Coterie, you probably need a full collection. But if you're looking to sell online, you're looking to get into Amazon or sell on Instagram, you don't need that. You can have just a few key products and do them in a bunch of colorways, do them in different prints, do them with different seaming. Like, there's all these fun things you can do to activewear to make a basic block body look a bunch of different ways. So yeah, do that for sure.
Thank you.
Our next question from the audience.
Hi, so someone who wants to expand their ready-to-wear fashion label to US and is not from here, how would they do that, and how can they do wholesale? Can they do it by themselves, or do they really need an agency?
You're asking if they can do wholesale
Yeah,
by themselves?
yeah.
I don't necessarily advise that for people like entering into the business here. I think you need to partner with a showroom and partner with some experienced either road salespeople, traveling salespeople, within the sector of what you're doing, or especially if you're going for wholesale, because there's such a leverage, there's so many contacts that you would have to have access to that are not readily available. Would you, I know you used to work in a showroom, would you agree with that?
Yeah, so I worked in a few different showrooms down in LA, and it's very different if you're working a market week and you've got appointment after appointment after appointment. You need all of your line sheets, you need your POs, you need your order forms, you need a system of who is confirming those orders, are they deliverables, what is when you're, is it net 30, is it net 90? There are some companies that you have to supply your barcodes for, and a barcode per number is $1,000 for Walmart or Target or somebody like that. That's just for the sticker to go on your hang tag to go on your product. So what I would say is, if you really want to bring your business to the US, go down to LA, get into a showroom and intern for 6 months. And just learn how they're doing it, because it is unlike any other sales job that you have. And you see how they build their contacts. You see how they approach new people. You see how they grow and adapt. Probably the best way for you to have that success. And also look at other companies that are carrying similar things. Like, is your product something that you'd see on the rack at Nordstrom? Who is it hanging next to? Is that somebody that has an agency, that has a showroom that you could go visit? Things like that.
So I'm going to check to see if anyone online has a question. All three of you are muted right now. If you want to unmute yourself and have a question, I'd be happy to relay it to the group.
Good, yeah. That's excellent.
Okay, and what about the in people in person?
Apart from online, what has been maybe like in person for like selling, what has been the number one place, events, or even like, just anywhere that you would sell? Like, what has worked for you guys? And have you done that like over and over and over and gotten, multiples on top of your sales and success and all that?
So for me, custom is what I do. So I don't really sell online. I don't sell in other shops yet. That's something that we're developing and moving towards. But it is in person. It's having consultations. People come in, they bring their concepts, we sit down, we sketch, we go over textiles, we go over details, those sorts of things. I will say, and cautionary tale here, as somebody who has done it all myself and hasn't had the silver spoon budget that some people are lucky enough to have, that there are a lot of things out there that are traditional in fashion design, like runway shows, that maybe 40, 50, 60 years ago in Paris during Fashion Week, people would go and they would see the number, they'd write it down, they'd order it, and it would be a purchase. Everything, it's become more of a social thing to go out, dress up, have a couple of cocktails, be seen and see a beautiful show, but the mindset isn't necessarily to buy. Where you see a lot of up and coming designers having more success is creating more experiences. So doing something like a trunk show style, rent out a business suite in a hotel and put in snacks, put in cocktails, put in coffee, bring in flowers, bring in a model or two so that people can see how the clothing drapes and how fantastic it looks on a body versus on a hanger. Because we've all bought something off the rack where you hold it up and you're like, this looks horrible, and then you put it on and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm so glad I tried it on. So think outside the box, think within your budget of how you can stand out. Is it something that's like a live music show? You're putting it on YouTube and there's no audience and it's a bare bones venue. What speaks to your brand? Is it really rock and roll? Is it high-end couture and it needs to be shown in the Palace of Versailles? What is your customer looking for?
Think about what your customer would want? What is that experience, lifestyle?
Yeah.
What is that lifestyle that they're seeking? They'll come and then they need to have, is it gonna be beer? Or is it, what are you gonna serve? Beer, are you about, your brand is about beer or about champagne? You know, two extremes. Or is it about lighting that you barely see anybody, okay? And the ambiance music or the orchestra, live orchestra. What is that your brand is about? What people want to, what are the expectations when they come to you in person or online? And yes, those two experiences need to be aligned. So when they look at your website and then it's dark, background is dark and there's music, I don't know, some kind of dark music or whatever, they expect that for you to have in person too.
I think
So that's not to translate, right? Your personality, your brand personality, and sometimes designer identity, designer personality is very driven by the brand and vice versa.
Yeah.
Like Tom Ford. He is the identity of his brand. Now he's been sold, right? Millions of dollars, that's great. He can now let it go. But still, you have that when he was at the head of Tom Ford, he created it.
Yeah.
When you speak, what about the trends? What trends do you follow when you trends in terms of color and the fabric and everything? He said, I am my own trend. I create my own trends. So I follow by Tom Ford. No. So
so. I think one of the things that I would say is it comes down to an understanding of your clients. Where are your clients? How do you find them? If you're doing high-end fashion shows, but you got low-end, low price point products, might not be your group. If you're going to, Saturday markets, but you're selling high-end stuff, that it's not who's buying your stuff, I think is going to help dictate where you're going out to find them. So I think almost create that scenario in your head is, okay, who's buying my stuff? What age range is buying it? Is it kids? Is it teenagers? Is it adults? Is it seniors? Whatever it might be. Where are they? What kind of income do they have? What kind of jobs do they have? Where are they living? Is it suburban or is it in the city? So I think getting that understanding is going to help you understand where you should start putting your product placement.
I was just gonna add, if you're, I'm assuming, I have no idea what your aesthetic is or line, but I'm assuming that it's gonna be fresh and interesting, and there's all these great streetwear shops all through Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
So why not meet those people that have those awesome boutiques, the sneaker boutiques, whatever, talk to them about doing pop-up in there, having a party, having a DJ, just having, people hang wearing the clothes. It doesn't have to be a runway show, it can be casual, but it can be like fun, it can be an event. Because if you're doing sportswear and this like activewear in this area that's so saturated, take advantage of living in a city where it's so really thriving street activewear culture here,
Right.
for sure.
and add to that, collaborations. Collaborations. What do you
With I guess for my brand, it would be like cycling. So like collaborating with
It's a cycling community, right? Cycling makes sense. It's those that have bikes, right? They will be your kind of community that you would target, right?
Yeah.
But you never know. You never know that some of the pieces you'll find that not only people who have bikes, right, belong to those, have clubs, right? There are clubs, biking clubs, that would enjoy wearing your t-shirts or shorts or whatever you're selling, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, but maybe it makes more sense to start there with those biking communities. Biking
Yeah.
biking communities,
Yeah.
right? Does it make sense? Because
No.
Bike
But you-
shops, yeah. Just
bike,
pop up at
yeah,
bike
and
shops,
do
yeah.
and do collab with them, you know. And
Our next question.
Yeah. Fashion is all about learning, constantly learning. What you would recommend as learning channels? Is it like old-fashioned, like books? Is it something brand new, like technology? Maybe shows, anything? So, just curious to know.
There's in business, the basics of you have a product, you have a system in place to create that product, you have to sell that product in order to recoup your costs, and the cycle continues. That's not going to change. And there are people that have brilliant business books, and you could read a book from, and it's still the same business model. Depends on your business model. Now, if it's something like how people are creating 3D printed mechanical dresses, you're not going to find that in a book. You're going to have to find somebody online. So figuring out what it is in particular that you're trying to learn about is going to then tell you how to find that resource. And it might be, hey, you see something on Instagram that is like what you want to learn about, reach out to that creator, or, you know, we've got AI now, right? Hey, Bing, or whatever your search engine is, grandma, or ChatGPT. Yeah, ChatGPT is great. Give me resources for how to learn about XYZ.
Okay, for example, product development.
Product development, business classes. Go look at and see if there's something at UW that you can take, or if there's a community college that has something, and try to find something parallel. Maybe it's in jewelry making because they don't have something for fashion here, or maybe it's in you know, how to become a small business owner and have the S Association. They have a lot of people have you know, worked in Boeing or Microsoft or wherever, and were VPs that are retired now on their board and they want to give back to the community. Find mentors, because that's how you're going to get that experience as well as the book learning, and then figure out what is the true north for you and your brand.
Can I say something? Sorry. I wanted to say that Seattle has mentor program, it's government program. So
What's
just Google it, it's mentor program.
Mentor program,
Mhm.
like
You just use for
agency.
any business,
Oh,
like
okay.
you can choose it like whatever, it's, I think it's built by government. So you just Google it, mentor program for small owner businesses. So, and they have those, and you can connect with those people.
Yeah.
I would add, if you really want the good, strong fashion education, you can do that remotely. You can attend FIT, Fashion Institute Technology in New York. They have probably the best fashion business program in the States, and they have a continuing ed program that is not exorbitant in the cost. You can take a product development class. It might cost you $300 or $400 to take a product development class online. They have so many classes that you can do remotely, and they are wonderful. I've taken many classes there. I have friends who are professors there. I think that's really your best resource for like getting that specific information that's really in the business that you need.
Can you repeat again, FIT?
FIT,
Thank you.
yeah, of course.
Any last questions? Well, first I want to say thank you to all of our panel people, now as I'm walking in the camera. Thank you for this. Thank you for being willing to share your knowledge and your expertise with designers and help out. I think I see being a fashion designer getting harder and harder each year with all the different aspects, whether it's truly the business side of things or social media or understanding where to get supplies from, you know, dealing with overseas, and everything is moving so fast and furiously. I think it's just getting harder and harder to be the designers we're wanting to be. So having people like yourselves willing to share your knowledge and resources and your time. It's greatly appreciated from our end. We plan on doing these more often. We'll probably get another 2 or 3 of these done this year. We may look at doing some strictly online versus in person, kind of mixing it up a little bit. We'll also, Fashion District Northwest is trying to have more resources put online for designers, so you can find out what programs are there or who you might want to get a hold of. But if you have questions or things that you're specifically needing help with, feel free to reach out to us. info@fashiondistrictnw.com is a good email for us, and just kind of lay it out. We may have people that we can connect you with, and see if we can figure out what your specific problems are. But we're excited to do these where we can have them recorded. We're going to be putting it up on YouTube here later this week, and want to thank everybody for participating in person, on the video chat, and for those of you on YouTube, look forward to hearing from you as well. Thank you very much. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you.